Journalists here in Columbia have been interested in investigating what went wrong at the University Village apartments. You probably remember a walkway collapse at the MU student housing complex killed Columbia firefighter Bruce Britt in February. KOMU reporter William Joy reported on last night's 6 p.m. news on the runaround he's been given by the university.
Each time we've needed to get information on University Village, we've been directed to MU spokesperson Christian Basie. But when we've talked to Basie, who serves as a middleman between reporters and actual experts on campus, he hasn't known the answers to a lot of our questions and has suggested we need to talk to other people to get the information.
I don't have the details on that. Yeah, that's beyond what I know. And we'd have to talk with someone else.
KOMU-8 News has requested interviews with 10 different people associated with residential life and maintenance on the apartments to help answer our questions. But each time, the departments refused to answer, saying all interviews had to go through the MU News Bureau, sending us back to Basie.
Joy goes on to describe how Lofton was made unavailable for an interview either on March 28th during his spring break or after graduation 2 months after the request. Joy also describes the cost estimates for public records that exceed $5,000 and being shut out of public forums on graduate student housing. KOMU sought response to this report that had aired last night from the university, didn't get one. University didn't comment. Is this something to be concerned about?
I don't think anyone should be surprised by this because you also have to remember that there's a lawsuit pending against the university in the death of the firefighter Britt. Mm-hmm. So that's a part of all of this as well. But it's not really unusual for news organizations that have been stymied to try to get more information by basically putting a story out there that says, hey, we're not getting the information. It doesn't look good for you. We're going to continue to do this. You need to talk because the public needs to know.
Using a bully pulpit.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's hard to know how to react until you know what the experience of other media have been. Is this just the student reporters at KOMU, or has it been the sort of modus operandi as other journalists have tried to get information from the university?
And we've done a bit of research on that today.
We found out a little bit about that.
We found out that the Missourian has also been experiencing some troubles in getting access to documents and access to certain people that they've been looking to talk to. Also spoke with some folks at KMIZ who said that while they did have problems at the offset, after that initial document dump, if you will, on March 5th when the initial reports and inspections were given out, they really haven't had anything to complain about since then. They do say they haven't been pushing about certain things or asking specifically about certain things, but following the story incrementally. And from watching the coverage, you definitely know that KMIZ hasn't dropped its reporting on the story.
Yeah, my initial reaction to it was sort of like Ernest, well, I'm not surprised that they are withholding information or being, leery about giving out too much information in the wake of the lawsuit. But on the other hand, I also seem to think the big problem is if you're going to set up this funnel and say the only person that can speak, there's one person in authority who can speak, and then that person can't give you any information, then you are disserving the public by not providing that information, and the media are going to get frustrated.
And the other part to that is that they're saying that only two people can give information, either Christian Basie or Chancellor Lofton. And to not be able to have access to Lofton makes it even more difficult and looks pretty bad for the university. I mean, if you're going to say that these two people can talk, but you're only letting this one person talk, and then that person doesn't have any information, makes it seem as if the university is trying to hide something. Now, the question also becomes is how much pressure is going to be put on the university to talk. I would suggest, this is just a suggestion, that talk to the people who moved out of University Village apartments. Talk to state legislators who have some sort of impact in terms of getting information from the university. Those are ways in which I think journalists can also report on this story and be able to get some information without just trying to go to the one source.
And one of the most obvious sources, and perhaps KOMU and other reporters have already been approaching them, is the lawyer for the family that's suing.
Yes,
they have
definitely
the most to gain by getting access to information and leaking it to the press, frankly. The one thing I also worry about, though, just before we leave the story, Amy, is whether or not this is setting a precedent. This is really the first major controversy that occurred entirely on the new chancellor's watch. Is this the way all controversies are going to be managed when there's a press involvement? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and it's what's really gonna be able to I guess open this up a little bit. To get to Mike's point, is this the way the university is going to handle it under Lofton? Are we going to see this from the other media? We talked about the Missouri, we talked about KMIZ. What if national media comes in a situation like this? I'll say one of the St. Louis stations or Kansas City picks up on this and wants to run with it. Then what happens? Does that open it up even further? So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens, especially as we move toward the lawsuit.